Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me today for our webinar on how to write a business plan. My name is Kristy. I'm a presenter and an advisor for Business Station as part of the Digital Solutions program. I have written a number of business plans myself and also helped businesses writing them. So what we're going to go through today is just really based on personal experience and how to efficiently and effectively write a business plan, and a little bit of information on the background of what you might use it for as well. It's always good to have a great document, but it has to be useful for your business, in addition to just having it. Today, as we go through, please use the Q&A functionality at any time to ask questions. That's absolutely fine. Or the chat functionality, just pop your messages in there, and we will also have a little bit of time at the end of the session for questions as well. So keep that in mind, and I'll keep an eye on those coming through. Okay, so first of all, what is a business plan? What we're going to go over today is essentially what is a business plan and why you might need one. We'll go into a few tips before you start and get into your business planning. We'll go through the key components. Some of them we're going to go through in a little bit more detail than others because they require a little bit more of a comprehensive look. And then we'll talk about pulling it all together. We'll look at a template and you can get an idea of how your business plan might flow. Now, some businesses will have a business plan that they've established perhaps at the time that they started their business to get finance and that kind of thing. But, understanding the purpose of the business plan, I think, is a really key element of actually developing one. So what is it? A business plan really describes your product and service, and it identifies who your customers are. It'll explain why they need your product or service, and it'll show how you're going to make money from the business opportunity. How you write the actual business plan will largely depend on what you need it to do. So there's a couple of key jobs, like I mentioned, that business plans can have. It can explain your business idea to convince a lender and investor to put money behind that business idea. Or it can just be for the purpose of, reiterating to yourself that you're on the right track and that you should invest your time and money into the business. You shouldn't have to do an overly extensive business plan in the first instance. It's something that you can start with it short and to the point, make it easy to update, but build on as you go. If you're going for funding, your business plan tends to need to be a lot longer and a lot more comprehensive than if it's just for your own information or your own purposes. But a good business plan will really guide you through each stage of starting and managing your business. So I find that businesses do tend to use these business plans as a roadmap for how to structure, how to run, and how to grow your business. So it's really just a way to think through the key elements of your business and put it all on paper. Like I said, that can very much help you to get funding or bring in a new business partner. If you're looking for any kind of funding or investor, people want to feel confident, whether it be the bank or a private investor. They want to feel confident that they're going to get a return on their investment. So your business plan is that tool that you can use to convince people that working with you or investing in your company is in fact the right choice. Now, if you're looking at starting up a business, you might want to consider some key questions to help determine if you're ready to even start writing the business plan. First of all, around that feasibility piece, have you thoroughly refined your business idea so that you've got a good a good understanding of how your business is actually going to operate? You would want to research your business concept to determine if there's actually a need for it in the marketplace. So make sure that, the marketplace, there are consumers that will buy your product or service, and it's not saturated with options and therefore make it too difficult for you to compete. That feasibility study should really identify expected levels of success or expected return. I would also consider before you start, do you actually have the money that's required to start the business? Because there can be costs associated with that. What I tend to find in terms of starting a new business is that if you've got some money in place to start the business, then you can start it a lot more, I guess, quickly and more efficiently than if you're relying on funds sort of dripping in. So you might want to factor that into how quickly you can start a business as well. And the last point that I would make in terms of, deciding what, whether you're ready to start your business or even to start writing your business plan, are you prepared to invest significant time into this to make it an effective document, but also into the business to get it up and running? Now, if you have an existing business, you might have determined some of those things already, but you perhaps have never had a business plan, or you just need to rewrite it. So you still need to consider those points again, because a lot of things can change from when you start a business to depending on where you're at now. So keep that in mind. Now, when we're looking at a business plan, let's say you're ready to get started on your business plan, you do have to take or keep in mind, I should say, that it will take time and dedication to complete it. It's not something that you're going to be able to complete just sitting down for a couple of hours and just getting it done, or in a short period of time. I would say allocate time to do it. Time where you're not going to be distracted or disturbed, and time where you're going to be able to, I guess, not only not be distracted, but have time aside that's spread out so that you're not forced to sort of get it done without having that break. Because I think it's really important that you have some time to digest and analyze what you've researched, and then go back to your business plan and continue on. Now, there's no rules about what your business plan should cover or the level of detail. In general, plans do need to include some key information, which I'm going to run through with you now. And don't forget, towards the end of the session today, I'm actually going to go through a template, and that will sort of show how you can pull it all together. But your business plan, some of the key components that it should have, first of all, you'll find at the beginning of any good document or business plan, there is generally an executive summary, which is a short summary of the main points of your business plan. That is actually written last. So it's basically a summary of all of the information that's contained in the business plan. So if somebody just wanted to read a one-pager to get to the point, this is kind of what the executive summary does. Then you've got the business profile or a company overview. This will identify your industry. It'll identify what you're selling and how much you'll charge. Your vision, mission, and goals are really important. So we're going to expand on that shortly, because I find businesses struggle to actually define their vision and their mission just as statements alone. But that kind of leads into what your goals are. A market analysis is really important, and that's where you're going to describe your target market, examine the competition, see what's out there, and just use any research that you can find that will analyze the consumer behavior or the market in general. Your products and services will obviously be listed in there. Now, that will include obviously a clear definition of the different products and services that you will offer, but it sometimes includes a bit of a description of the problem that you're solving for customers. So it kind of backs up that there is a need for your products or services. Then you've got the marketing plan or the sales plan. This is going to go through a number of components, but essentially how you're going to find customers and make sales, how many sales they're going to be, and those kind of things. So obviously it's quite in depth, but that's a bit of an overview of what it will look like. And we will go through that in more detail. A risk assessment it has to be considered for all business planning, and that's where you can flag any potential hurdles. Now, these hurdles can be anything. They can be your traditional risks, so your occupational health and safety and environmental risk and that kind of thing, but also business risks, so downturn in certain industries, fluctuating economies, even include assumptions being proven wrong. So as part of your sales planning, you have assumptions that people will buy X amount of a certain product or service from you. So your risk assessment might factor in that if you're wrong, there will have to be some mitigations around that. Milestones are really important, and progress reporting sort of ties into your milestones. So your milestones will define what needs to happen and when it needs to happen. Now, this becomes absolutely crucial with your goals, but also if you're starting up a business, there will have to be key milestones. With a startup business, there's often a long period of time before there is any cash flow. So making sure that you are on target with your milestones, and the progress reporting sort of backs that up, and defines when and how you're going to report against the milestones, if that makes sense. Your team and the general operations will be outlined in your business plan. So who's going to be involved in the business? If it's just yourself, you might have to include things like CVs. Some business owners, if you've been in business a long time, you probably don't have an up-to-date CV, but they are a really important attachment, or to incorporate your skills and responsibilities within your business plan. And those of the key personnel are really important as well. Then the budget and the finance side of things. With that, you've got to estimate your costs, obviously, or any expenses within the business, plus your income. So you're going to have a lot of assumptions and estimations around income. You'd have to factor in any debt that you plan to take on as well, what that's going to inject into your business, but then also how you're going to repay it. And financing the business, you might have to show how you're going to fund the business if it's not by way of a loan or taking on any debt. So some of those areas are really straightforward, whereas others can be a bit more complex. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail on, first of all, defining your vision and mission, because I feel that companies get really, there's a bit of a roadblock at that point. What is a mission statement? What is a vision statement? And what is its purpose? We'll talk more about conducting market research and analysis, because understanding the market is absolutely crucial. It gives you that true big picture, which you need. We'll talk a little bit more about developing your marketing plan, and also the budget and finance side of things before we look at the template. Okay, so starting with your vision and mission statements. Now, usually people write these statements for their business, or you can do it for a particular team or a particular project. But you can create statements to define goals of a new business. So let's say you had an existing business, you might want to redefine the goals by way of a mission and a vision statement for this new sort of arm of the business. So most of the time with small businesses, you're looking at it from a whole business perspective. But essentially, a vision statement defines your organization's purpose and its primary objectives, but it focuses on goals and aspirations. Now, a vision statement is really designed to be uplifting and inspiring. They also tend to be timeless, so they're not time bound. So even if as an organization you change your strategy, the vision does often stay the same. Now, that differs slightly to mission statements, which define your organization's or your business's purpose and your primary objectives, but they're set in the present tense. So they really explain why you exist as a business to members of your organization and to people outside it. So I find that mission statements tend to be short, clear, and a bit more powerful, whereas the vision statements are more aspirational, probably a bit more fluffy, I guess you could put it. In any case, both a vision or a mission statement should be concise, they should be focused and inspiring, and you really need to do everything you can to make your statement succinct. So you don't want long sort of waffling statements, because they can be difficult for people to understand and lead to confusion. Whereas in reality, your staff and yourself should know your vision and mission statements, and you should be living by them, because it really, like I said, it defines your organization's purpose and primary objectives or goals and aspirations. So they're hugely important statements. They're not just for the purpose of a business plan. And I often ask small businesses this: do you have a vision and mission statement? And most of the time the answer is yes. And the next question I have is, do you know what it is? Most people, and I would say 9 out of 10 people, don't actually or can't recite their vision and mission statement, let alone have their staff recite it, when realistically every day you're going to work, or your business is operating for the purpose of what is outlined in your vision and mission statement. So it is something that is extremely powerful and important, and everybody should be sort of living by, if that makes sense. Now we're going to look at some examples. First of all, looking at some mission statement examples. Now, keep in mind, mission statements define your organization's purpose and your primary objectives. So these are some statements that I thought were quite good. First of all, sumo salad, to make Australia a healthier and happier place. So that explains sort of the root of why it was founded, but also reveals its vision for a better future. So that's quite good. It talks about local Australian market, the focus being on well-being and not just pushing a product as such. The next one I've got on the list there is Google. Now, Google's is interesting. It's to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. So obviously Google is a company that has an absolutely huge scope of service. So these words like useful and accessible convey that inherent value of that huge scope. And it kind of simplifies what is a very complex business. So I think that works quite well for a monster of a business. Jetstar is the next one. Jetstar's mission is to offer low fares to enable more people to fly to more places more often. So that kind of highlights the key selling point, which is really low fares. And the value to the customer is more travel to more destinations, so more places more often. So I think that works quite well as well. IKEA is simply to create a better everyday life for the many people. So the focus here is really on making everyday life better for customers rather than just selling furniture. And that kind of translates into the products and services that they offer. The phrase many people towards the end there, that really makes this huge company seem a little bit more accessible. And they do have a really broad scope of customers. So it kind of encapsulates that as well. So hopefully you can get some inspiration from some of those. And they're just ones that I've handpicked that I think are quite effective. Then we've got some vision statement examples. Now, keep in mind here that vision statements, they do also define your organization's purpose, but they focus on goals and aspirations. So like I said earlier, I feel that they are a little bit fluffier, essentially, or a bit more aspirational. And they tend to be a little bit shorter as well, in line with that. But that's not any written rule. So first of all, looking at Costco, their vision is a place where efficient buying and operating practices give members access to unmatched savings. Very, very straightforward. And, it's not time bound. It's not customer bound as such. It's just basically saying that they just want to make things efficient to give you savings, which they certainly do. So I think that works for them. Disney, their vision is simply to make people happy. So again, very aspirational, and it works for Disney across their range of products and services. Netflix, their vision is helping content creators around the world to find a global audience. Now, I found this really interesting because it speaks about obviously the organization's purpose and from a goal and aspirational perspective. So their purpose is really to help content creators to find an audience. So it's to link the two, which I thought was really interesting as well. And then you've got ASX, which is the world's most respected financial marketplace. So again, it's not bound by any specific, or objectives as such, but it does define their overall purpose in an aspirational sort of sense. So hopefully you can see the difference. They are very similar by way of mission and vision, but just always think they both convey their purpose and objectives, but a vision statement is more aspirational. So keep that in mind. All right, so now we're going to look at conducting market research and analysis. Now, this is going to be the backbone behind your business plan. Research is absolutely key. You need to know what the market's doing, and you need to know where you fit into that market. So you need to obviously understand, like I said, what the market is doing first of all. Now you can look at a broad range of research. Now most industries I find have industry specific research by way of, if you've got any kind of industry membership organizations or industry bodies or anything like that, quite often they will have access and communicate research. But you can look at the Australian Bureau of Statistics, from the census sort of reports. Other industry specific research areas may exist, but otherwise there's a pretty significant amount of information available through a database of research information called IBIS World. Now that is available, it's not always available online, but you can access it through different small business organizations, like SBDC, for example. So have a look at that, because they do have a lot of industry and topic specific market research. So I found a lot of good documents in there. You need to have a look at consumer behavior and trends. So who are your customers? You need to understand and have a really clear idea of the type of people or the type of businesses that are going to buy your product or service. You obviously have to start with an assumption or a bit of just thinking yourself who is going to buy my product and service. Then you use research to back it up. Now this who are your customers, who's going to buy your product and service, is going to be one of the first questions that any investor or lender is going to ask about your business, or expect to see in a business plan. So you need to understand whether your customers will be consumer directly or if it's business, so B2C or B2B. If they're businesses, you need to know who you're going to target within the company. So who is the actual decision maker? Is it a salesperson? Is it a CEO? Who is it? You'll also need to determine whether or not you're going to have regular clients or if it's going to be one-off buyers or one-off interactions. And I would also look at external research by way of third-party research that's available. Speak to some of your potential customers by way of focus groups or surveys of actual customers. Mine your own data. So have a look at if you have an established business, have a look at what sort of repeat purchases you have and what statistics and information you know about your current consumer base, essentially. Competitor analysis is absolutely crucial by way of research. Now, every business has competition. So when you go through and do a competitor analysis, and I'll show you in the template where that exists, but make sure that you're thorough and you list all of your existing and potential competitors. So who are your direct competitors, which are, people that are selling the exact same products or services as you. And then look at also indirect competitors. So people whose market overlaps yours. If you know a consumer is not going to buy your product or service and someone else's, even though they may differ, then that they become an indirect competitor. So if you're competing for the same dollar, essentially. I would also have a look, when you're looking at competitors and comparing your business, have a look at what is going to prevent other companies competing with you. So are there barriers to entry perhaps that you've overcome by way of licenses, location, whatever it is that that may prevent other companies going into competition with you. Once you've assessed your own company and the competition that exists, that'll really help you to define your USP, which is your unique selling proposition. So once and I guess add another element into that, know what customers want, know what it is that you're good at, and know what your competitors offer, and find a gap there. So you want to look for something that you're very good at, your competitors aren't offering, but your customers want. And that is what's going to make you stand out from your competitors, what's going to make you differ, and that is your unique selling proposition. Now, it's absolutely crucial that you really define how your business is going to differentiate itself from others. It could be based on price, it could be service, it could be quality, it could be your range of products and services, your value, your location, whatever that is. Really understand what the differentiating factor is and spell it out. Now you can, it will help to define some of your strengths by doing a SWOT analysis, which can uncover what will be your unique selling proposition. So a SWOT analysis is an assessment of some internal factors being your strengths and weaknesses, and some external factors being opportunities and threats that have the ability to impact your business. So have a look at that. Now, I find getting as many people that are in your business involved in some of this research can be really helpful. You know, sitting down and giving everybody a template for a SWOT analysis so they can go away and list what they think your business's strengths and weaknesses are, or even who they think the competitors might be, can actually be really helpful, because you can get some, amazing information back from the people that you least expect to. Once you've defined and done this research, the idea will be that you plan your business and your business plan around your strengths. So keep your strengths in mind. You also want to try and mitigate any weaknesses or identify those areas for improvement and have a plan to improve. But really writing your business plan around your strengths helps you construct a plan that makes the most of your abilities, but you're still being realistic. So it's a lot more likely to convince investors or funders that you're serious if you focus on that. So research, it's a simple one slide on our presentation today, but this is probably the most time-consuming element of business planning. You absolutely have to have, the time and have the resources to be able to conduct this research. You have to look at all internal and external factors to get that true big picture. Okay, target markets are a very, very important component, and I believe it's the most important component of any marketing, and that's to truly know your target market. And you'll have to clearly spell this out in the marketing section of your business plan. So who are your customers? Now, do you have a really clear idea of the type of people, or in the case that it's businesses, that are going to buy your product or service? If not, you're going to really have to dig deep and think very carefully until you do, and then you're going to have to back it up with that research that we were talking about. So you have to understand whether your customers will be consumers or businesses, and like I said, if they're businesses, who is the decision maker in those companies, and really research your target audience. So there's no room for guessing when it comes to target audience. You have to identify the people or the businesses that are going to buy from you. And you have to really clearly define them by way of demographics are important, but that's your age, your gender, social status, that kind of thing. If it's a company, it could be more company information around the size of the company, the revenue, or the services, the products, the company. Location is really important. Geographically, where are they based? Is it a particular profession that you're targeting? Are there specific groups? Do they have niche interests? So start to look at that side of things. Have a look at the psychographics and behaviors around people as well. Now, the better that you can evaluate and define your target market, the more comprehensive your business plan is going to be. So a target market is essentially a segment that's selected by your business for marketing attention. So don't get it confused with who's going to come through your doors. So you might know that you get a certain market through your doors, and they're going to come, they're going to find you no matter what. So that's not a target market as such. That might be a sector of your consumer base, but a target market is someone that you want to actually advertise to. So who you're going to give marketing attention to. Now, you could have multiple target markets. As you're researching, you might find that there is a target market that you already have, or there could be a potential new target market. There might be target segments that no one's reaching at the moment, or no one's communicating to, or there could be target markets that you think are quite good, but you can see that they're being served well by competitors. So they might be, saturated with options and a little bit more difficult to get to. Now, generally speaking, to be a viable market segment or a target market, it should meet a certain criteria. First of all, they have to be grouped so that they are all alike. So you're looking for developing homogenous markets. So you might have 3 or 4 target segments, but they should, within each segment, be alike because of all of those factors that will characteristics that you've given them. So demographics, geographics, psychographics, behavioral factors. They have to differ from the general population, but also differ from other market segments. So each market segment has to be very clearly defined in its own right. And they have to be large enough to be financially viable to support their own marketing campaign. Otherwise, it becomes one of those segments that you know you're going to get through the door, but you're not going to focus your marketing attention on. So keep that in mind. Like I said, demographics is the most common way, the most common, I guess, dimension to segment markets. But don't forget your behavioural, psychographic and geographic information as well. You need to have that really clear image of your target market. Without that, as a small business, you try to reach almost everyone. And what happens is you end up appealing to no one. So you should be able to describe this target market as a person, visualize them even. And you want to go down as far as developing a bit of a persona for them, which we see in business, is very common now, where you've developed an actual persona and you say, this is target market, or, market segment number 1, typical person, her name's Alice, she's, whatever age, demographic, and start spelling out all of those characteristics. So like I said, that is very, very common. The better you evaluate your target market, the more comprehensive that plan is going to be, as I said. So it's going to really tie in very, very well, the more specific you are with that target market. Now, once you know everything about your target market and you can describe them down to the T, you will know exactly where they consume media, which is where you need to advertise or place your message. And that will ensure that you're marketing extremely effectively. And like I said, if you don't do that, you try to reach everyone, which means that your message just gets lost and you end up appealing to almost nobody. So that's very, very important. And don't get caught out. I speak to small businesses all day, every day. And one of the biggest things that I hear is that, everyone's my customer, or I get a description of, our customers are anywhere from 18 to 70 and they come from all over the place, which is essentially describing everyone. So be more specific than that. Look at who your core target market is, the person or the segment that represents the best value for your business is going to give you the best return and is the most likely or the easiest for you to get to as well, or communicate to. So target markets are an absolutely crucial component of your business plan. Then we look at the marketing mix. Now, your marketing mix is the controllable factors that have been chosen by your business to satisfy your customer needs. So once you know exactly who your target market is, you've done all that research on your competitors and internally on your own business, you've defined the target markets, then you've got to really think about those controllable factors to satisfy the customer's needs. So it's going to be the 4 controllable factors are your product, your price, your place, and promotion. Now, depending on your business, there is talk of 7 Ps if you include people, processes, and physical environment. But for the purpose of today, we'll just talk about the 4, starting with products. So with your products, have a look at whether your product range complements each other and does it suit who you've identified as your target market or your target audience. So you might need to make changes to appeal more to your target market. And we quite often see this from a business planning perspective, is that you'll get to this point, you go, you know what, I defined these products, but now that I've done all of this research and I've identified a new target market, or I've identified that there's changes in my target market, you have to change your product to fit. I would always keep in mind that you can never ask a customer to change their needs or wants to suit your product or service. You always have to, and you have to be continually evolving your products to suit changing needs and wants. So keep that in mind. You could be the most well-established business, but have to keep reviewing those products. Pricing, you have to consider how your pricing suits what you now know about your target market. Also compare it against your competitors. And compare pricing, or have a look at how your pricing sits with your entire product or service range. doesn't make sense. How does it look alongside each other? Because one thing you don't want to do is confuse people when it comes to making a choice. So if you've got 3 products and people can't see the difference in the products, but the price is vastly different, then they might get quite confused about which one to buy. So you want to make that, at the point from a pricing perspective, you want to make that decision easy for them because they can clearly differentiate products and services. Place is the 3rd P. This is your distribution. So where do people look for your product or service? So where are they going to be looking to buy it? Is it direct? So is the customer coming to you direct? Are you wanting to wholesale your products or services? Think about how you can access the right distribution channels for your business. Now, if you do go down the line of wholesaling anything, you might have to go back to your pricing and have a look at your pricing strategy, because you're going to get a lot less from a wholesale with wholesale pricing, than you will to the consumer direct. So that kind of ties into your pricing as well. And then your promotion. So having a look what your strategy is around promoting your product or service. Where are you going to market it? How are you going to get to your market if you're attracting consumers directly? Thinking about where specifically they consume media or advertising and what type of methods actually appeal to them. So you have to know your target audience very well to be able to determine how and where you're going to promote your product or service. So it all absolutely ties in. Now, once you've got all of that info, you can consider what your opportunities are. So keep in mind, successful businesses do think big. You might be starting small, but it doesn't have to stay that way. So start to look at the possible opportunities for your business as it grows. So you might just be starting by selling something online, for example, thinking about how you're going to get traffic to your site, how people will find you online, then start to think whether you'll need salespeople. As the business grows, there might be scope to then look at opening a store, for example, and then once you look at those opportunities, you need to make sure that you have allowed for your business to grow according to that plan as well. So look at the big picture opportunities. Okay, so now on the budgets and finance side of things, you should have obviously financial information in a business plan. All business plans will include financial information, and that will start with a cash flow analysis. You'll also be estimating sales in there, and you have to have a look at assumptions, how those assumptions are made and what changes may do or how it might affect your overall business plan. But just going back, in your cash flow analysis, some key factors to consider: obviously the overall cost of setting up your business. So the cost to make or buy products, cost for labor and manufacture or raw materials. There could be employee costs, especially if you're service-based. Obviously, employee costs are very relevant. Distribution and marketing costs obviously need to come into play there. And then also any fixed or variable overheads that you might have for your business. So keep that in mind. Now, with a cash flow, I would input all of those outflows, which is all the cash going out or your expenses first, and then you can start to estimate what sales you actually need to make to cover and hopefully exceed your expenses to be profitable. Now, if you've got some accounting software, keep in mind that good accounting software will help you create a draft financial model. So keep that in mind. And if you don't have something set up, now could be the time. But there's also great cash flow templates just by way of Excel documents that you can use to really map out your cash flow. And that's a major part of your business planning. With your estimate of sales, you have to be realistic there. You have to look at seasonality. You have to look at how much you're investing in marketing and advertising. So how are you actually going to get the sales? So that's a major factor. And then when I say in there, consider a change in conditions, always look at a worst case and a best case kind of scenario, and then somewhere in between. But make sure you've noted all of your assumptions as well. So that's where your your market analysis and that kind of research really comes into play, because you know what the market's doing, what sort of trends there are, and you can sort of map it out accordingly. So that's really important as well. So that's the budgeting and finance side of things. Now, looking at actual templates, there are a range of templates that are available to get you started by way of business plans. Now, some of my favorites are, there's the business.gov.au website, and there's a good business plan template on there. There's a Small Business Development Corporation, which also has a great business plan template. There is no right or wrong. It becomes your document. So you'll build it to suit your specific business. But we are going to have a look at one of those documents now. So let me just open that up. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, we'll have a look at one of these, which is the Small Business Development Corporation. Has a fantastic template, as I mentioned. So I'm just going to open that one up. Like I said, there's no right or wrong with a business plan template. It's really what works for you. Right. Okay. So hopefully that has come up on your screen okay. But this kind of template is very, very straightforward. It's all fill-in format, so you can see where you need to input your own data in here. And this particular document actually gives you step-by-step instructions along the way. So you can see here by way of contents, you'll have that executive summary that I spoke about, information around your business profile, your vision, mission, etc., market research, your operating strategy. Now this will differ business to business. If you're service-based, obviously, you know, plant and equipment and those kind of things may not be relevant, or location and premises if you're an online business, but you can delete any of this information because it is a Word document. You can absolutely go through and delete what's not relevant to you. So keep that in mind. And then obviously products and services, your marketing, which I spoke about, and that becomes a really core component of it, of the overall plan and your overall business strategy. The financial side of things is extensive in here. And then you will always link back to external documents as well. So the tips that you find along the way here are fantastic. And you'll see here, you know, in these brackets, it will tell you the tip, and then that's kind of indication to remove it and replace it with your information. So your business profile and, you know, all of your individual information, business owners, your experience, you may again want to use supporting document like CVs and that kind of thing, which you can just note in here. It'll talk through things like licenses, registrations, permits and insurance. It's very important to consider those factors. If they're not relevant to your business, simply remove them, but you may have to go away and do a little bit of research on what is actually needed with your business and then come back. Your SWOT, as I mentioned, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats. This is a great, if you could pull this one page out and give this to as many people that are involved in the business as possible, I think that's a great idea. It just really helps build the big picture from other people's perspective. So there could be people that are involved in the business that have an entirely different perspective on things than you do. So it's really important to get as much input and as many perspectives as possible. Your risk, you'll describe the risk. And as I said, don't just factor on your typical, you know, risk to public and OH&S type risk, but think about business risk, think about economic risk, think about human resource risk as well. What if something happens to you and you're the main business? You're obviously the business owner, but the core staff member within the business as well. You'll rate the likelihood of that. Is it highly likely? Is it likely, possible, unlikely, or highly unlikely? And then what would the impact be should it actually occur? So I would think about that as well. And then your mitigation or your strategy is what actions you're going to take to actually minimize the potential risks in your business. So let's say that you've identified that you being the only staff member is a potential risk, and you're the key knowledge holder. Likelihood that something will happen to you is unlikely, but the impact would be high. You might have, you know, really clear, I guess, work like instructions procedures, processes clearly defined and on paper so that someone could actually pick up from where you left off, or you may have a backup person trained in the case that anything happens to you. Your vision statement, your mission statement, and your goals, short and long-term goals, will be identified here. Your market research, so that includes a bit of a pest analysis, so your political, economic, social, technological factors, industry, and then your competitors, which leads on to a comprehensive competitor analysis. So really take the time to do this competitor analysis, and I would do this every 6 to 12 months anyway, just to really, have a look at what's going on. The market changes so quickly, and obviously that does vary depending on what market you're in and what your business is. But I would always have a look at this. So here you're looking at the competitor. Market share, you can't always find out. So you might even remove that column. I don't think that's overly relevant, but it's good to know how big a company is in terms of, just your assumption. If you can't estimate a percentage, you might just say, look, they're the biggest player in the game or something like that, or whatever your perception is, what their value to customers is. So what are they actually communicating to people as their unique selling proposition? What are their strengths and their weaknesses? Operationally, this stuff will all be, very much relevant to who you are as a business, your plant and equipment, inventory, suppliers, environmental strategy, human resources. All of this stuff is very, very important, but very specific to individual businesses. Some it may be relevant to you, some it may not. Your products and services will be outlined here, including what they are, the description and the price range. Your market position. Now, after you've done research, you'll know how your products and services fit in the market and how they compare to competitors and what your benefits to customers are. Pricing strategy. With this particular one, you can double click this table to enter details, or you could attach a separate, you might want to do this in Excel and then copy and paste it over. So I think it might, this is their sort of template format. So I think it's better to do these kind of things in an Excel document and pop it in. Distribution, that's your place, as I mentioned. So how are you going to distribute your product? Future plans, if you've got growth plans and that kind of thing, keep that in mind. Now, a lot of your research will sit around here in this marketing section, where you'll start to talk about market research, what your unique selling proposition is, who are your target markets, and what are your goals. You'll have a budget associated with your marketing. Customer service has to factor into it, obviously, so consider that. And then it goes into the financial side of things. So financial goals, your forecast. Again, this is, you can double click to enter information here, but I would do this kind of thing in a good cash flow template that sits away from this document and copy and paste the info in. That way it can be a usable document. You've broken down your cash flow month by month, that kind of thing. It's not just an annual amount. Cost of goods sold are very important. Your sales forecast, and that's this is laid out as if it was a product, so keep that in mind. You can change it to be service based, and then your cash flow forecast, which should look something like this. That should then define profit and loss and break even stuff, so you can work out when you can break even, and then obviously all of your supporting documentation as well. So as it sits just as a template, it is a 29-page document. So you'd expect that once you've input all of your information, it would be quite a lot larger than that, which is absolutely fine. It is meant to be a big document, but what it is meant to be is a document that you continually update. It's not something that you're doing once and it's sitting on the shelf and you go, yep, I've ticked that box, I've got a business plan, that's all I need to do now. It's something that you should be using regularly and going back to, referring to with the milestones, checking that you're on track and going, using it and updating it as things change in your business. So certainly have a look at the two different styles of templates available, both through government. One's a state government website, the Small Business Development Corporation, and business.gov.au is federal government. So have a look at them both. But like I said, no right or wrong. It's just what suits your business. So make use of those. Now, some final thoughts before we finish up. Your business plan is absolutely a roadmap for your business, but it's not set in stone. So like I said, review it often, at least once a year, and make changes. So you might have an annual strategy session day or something like that, where you get lots of people within your business involved. Key staff, I think it's so relevant to have them provide feedback. Get involved so that they can understand your business, they can grow further and develop themselves, but also have input into how the business and where the business goes from a direction sort of perspective. So yes, absolutely review it. Keep getting feedback from people that are involved in your business. You could have advisors, unofficial or official advisors. But the more feedback and the more external sort of inputs you can have, the more perspectives you get. So I would absolutely consider that. Now, if it's an overly complex and long document, you run the risk that you or potential investors won't actually look at it, or won't be able to digest the information. So your business plan should be relevant and focused. So if you find that it's waffling on or anything, just make sure that you take a break and go back and edit it later. I reckon, keep it concise. All the information has to be there. And most of the time with small businesses, you would know all of this information. It's just a matter of pulling it all together in one document where it's a story from start to finish, as I mentioned. So that is it from me. And that wraps up our session on how to write a business plan. I will stay on now to answer any questions. So please feel free to ask anything that might be relevant to your business. Also keep in mind that as part of this Commonwealth Government program, you can get access to one-on-one advisory services. So you can access 3 one-on-one sessions for just $44 and then make up a training package for yourself with webinars and workshops. So I would encourage you to do that. Now we can go through anything from business planning and growth strategies right through to, to social media, digital marketing, absolutely anything. So the focus of the program is on digital, but we understand that you have to get the ground, things right at a ground level first, essentially. So keep that in mind. There is a bit of eligibility around signing up for this program. So you have to be to register through us, based in Queensland, WA or NT, employ fewer than 20 full-time staff and be operating for profit. So keep that in mind. Thanks so much for joining me today. I will stay on, so if you've got any questions, fire them through, but otherwise, good luck with your business planning.